Board meeting of the Board of Trustees is called to order. The time is 5:32. If you'll all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll get started with new business. 3A, consider approval of after-school program agreement with YWCA El Paso del Norte Region. Ms. Macias?
Madam President, Dr. Espinosa, she's not here. Could we defer this and go to the other items and come back?
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and also skip item B for right now, because that's also for Ms. Macias.
What I could do, President, I can address this item if you don't mind. I have Mr. Mesa here, and I can kind of go over it if you want.
No, that's fine. It was just her name was on there, and so I didn't know if we needed to wait for her.
Thank you, ma'am. So what we're here is we're asking, Agenda 3B is consider approval using a purchasing cooperative to purchase 10 special ed buses. And you should have a copy of the backup that we provided there on your desk. As per policy CH local, any single budgeted purchase of goods or services over $100,000 or more, regardless of whether the goods were competitively purchased, shall be required board approval. So what you have there is two quotes that we have. So we're using by board contract 549-17. We have a quote from Longhorn Bus Sales, and we have one from Blue Star Bus Sales. So what you have is, these are for 10 special ed buses. Cost per bus from Longhorn is $97,727, and Blue Star is $99,990. With respect to funding, let me just provide you this information. We have $800,000 in our new budget. In addition to that, we have $169,800 from residual committed funds from an amount that we had budgeted for the purchase of 20 buses. The board several years ago committed funds to purchase these buses. This is what's remaining from that amount. So we'd like to use the $800,000 along with the $169,000 and the residual being from the department budget for the purchase of these buses. So you have this information, as you can also see with respect to the bids the quotes that were received. Longhorn buses, you have air conditioning is a warranty of 5 years as opposed to 3 years. These are both gas engine vehicles. So the administration is recommending that we give this sale to Longhorn Bus Sales in the amount of $978,070, which is approximately about $22,000 lower than the bid we received from Blue Star Bus Sales.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Nakira and a second by Mr. Ayub. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo. Okay, go to A. Ms. Macias, we have item 3A, consider approval of after-school programming agreement, YWCA El Paso del Norte Region.
Yes, ma'am. President Nájera, Dr. Espinosa, members of the board, my apologies for my tardiness. I'm here to renew the YWCA Paso del Norte MOU with the district. This is a renewal. They've been with us, and we've been with them for a year, and nothing has changed. All of the items are exactly the same as last year. Any questions?
Question.
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Macias,
Yes.
I see that the contract states something about a discounted rate for district employees, but there's no mention of what that rate is in the contract.
It is on page 6 of 7. Let me see. Actually, page 7 of 7. Do you all have that page?
7 of 7?
Yes.
Yes.
And those are the rates there. So their regular fee for the early learning academies is 110 weekly, partnership is 99 weekly. After-school programs is regular fee 49 weekly. For our partnership agreement is 47 weekly for our employees, $44 for the second child. And then if they want to participate in the health and wellness, which is off-site, they also have a partnership fee for that, 25 monthly for individual and 45 monthly for family. What they've also done is they've removed a fee initially, I believe, and don't quote me on this one, I believe it was a $50 fee that they had just to enroll above and beyond the fees for after-school care. And what they've done as of last year is they removed that registration fee.
Okay, it's just that the way that the contract language is laid out in Exhibit A there, it seems like they have their standard rate, and then because they're contracting with us, they have the partnership rate for our parents, and it seems to imply that there would be a yet third rate for SISD employees.
Oh, I see what you're saying. And then the rate is the same.
Okay, so.
They
all right.
do have it in two different columns or two different
Okay,
tables.
motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Nahara, a second by Mr. Ayub. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Macias. Now, item 3C, consider approval of agreement for the FAR San Juan Alamo Independent School District. Ms. Borrego.
I'm shorter, apparently.
A lot.
Good evening. Oh, thanks. A lot, they just said. Thanks. Board President Nahara, Dr. Espinoza, members of the board, good evening. Thank you. I'd like to, item C, consider approval of agreement with the FAR San Juan Alamo Independent School District. The purpose of this agreement is to provide access to Acceleriate software to Socorro ISD in the area of data services via the internet, hosted using its own infrastructure, and/or it may engage third-party vendors to host or provide elements therefore. PSJA ISD will also provide training, maintenance, and support services. Administration requests approval as presented.
Question.
Mr. Nahara.
All right, so, Ms. Borrego, Mr. Reyna, I've talked to both of you just to try and understand, because initially with the presentation, I was getting an image of a fancy Excel spreadsheet, and it was, and that's certainly my, imagination. That's, I guess, why it's good I'm not a software developer, huh? But, in conversations, et cetera, I understand it's a lot more complex than just that. And, I think we also raised the question on why don't we develop this ourselves? And certainly, the industry that I'm in with healthcare software, we're one of the leading solutions. And the reason is because it's very difficult to develop something that is complex for the same cost where you can buy it from somebody else who has already excelled. And I understand, or at least I've come to learn that, the district, FAR San Juan, has invested quite a bit of time and money and trial and error and, to try and get this software solution to where, we can avoid those. Of course, the cost as well is certainly less than what it would cost us for several years. Even if we license this, I'm looking at the cost here. I think even if we license this maybe for the next 10 years, it's still cheaper than it would cost us to produce the solution, and then we can use it immediately. So my questions there have been addressed, but I still had two more, and I mentioned those to you, Mr. Reyna. The contract states the 48-hour response time when we do have a question. I think that's excessive. 24 hours, and hopefully the response time is a little better than that. And maybe 48 hours, they've got a reason for it, but just, read it on the face of the contract. To me, it sounds like, all right, this is going to be a critical software. We don't want to fall behind on the documentation within it, and so if we run into a problem, especially a problem that you and your, extremely proficient team can't handle by themselves, that we have to call them, 48 hours just seems like a long time. And it's not for resolution, you know, it's for a response. So it seems a little excessive. The second one was the contract mentions no commitment on their part. Should we decide to terminate? Should they decide to terminate? You know, should we find a better solution, something like that? There's no commitment for them to return the data to us, which I think is important because we're doing away with all the manual stuff. So, you know, the only repository for the data is going to be them. So I think the contract should say something about, you know, them having the responsibility and the requirement to give us our data should we decide to go our separate ways. Other than that, I mean, it's good.
Let me just say, the software that they were looking at, it was done like 3 years ago. They took like 2 years ago, 2 years to build it. Maybe 4 developers that kids could develop the software. When it was first brought to me as my attention by the bilingual department, I happened to know this gentleman and I called him. And what they did is, it's not a spreadsheet. It is an entire process. The whole process that we use to enroll kids in the LPAC process, it's the entire thing. It did take them a lot of time. Are they trying to recuperate their money? Absolutely. Will they do it? Probably not, because to me, that's not a huge cost. When I talked to you about the 48 hours, I was thinking about it too. Why? It probably is because if it goes down on a Saturday, nobody works at the service center on a Saturday. So that's why they said probably 48 hours. That answers that question. The other part about the contract, that's something that we can work with purchasing, so we can put that language in there that as soon as if we decide to get out of the contract or they decide they can't handle it anymore, they return our data to us.
Yeah, okay. I thought about the weekend too, Mr. Dana, but it says 48-hour turnaround on weekdays only. So they're already excluding.
But it's something that we can talk to them to
Okay.
and bring it down to 20.
Yeah, sounds good.
Ms. Nájera?
Mr. Eve?
So a little bit on the cost here, because you've provided a cost here that it looked like first year $19,000. However, when you look right above that, it said participating district agrees to pay FAR San Juan ISD an additional licensing fee per ELL student as shown below. The fee is due and payable on January 31st, 2019. FAR San Juan will be offering a pilot for the duration of 6 months. At the end of the pilot, the district will be responsible for the prorated amount due if they wish to continue. What's the prorated amount? Because it sounds like it says due in January $15,000 or so, and is that just for 6 months or for the whole year? And then so then we're going to go to the $3 a student after that, and is that $3 a year, $3 every 6 months? What's the cost?
For the cost, I don't know. I don't know what agreement the bilingual program got with them. It is a pilot. We do want to test it out first before we agree to anything. We are going to work with them to make sure that we pilot certain schools before, again, the agreement is done.
So these $19,000, is it 6 months or the whole year?
It's a full year.
It's a full year? And so they're gonna let us do it for $1.50 per student for the whole year, and then after that, we would go to maybe $3 or something else?
Yes, sir. Good evening.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. It's the discount, the discounted amount is the 19,147, I believe. And that includes, we wouldn't have to pay upfront until January, the remaining, but it's not additional. It's the total amount for a full year.
Right.
So that's with a discounted price. So that would be for a full year.
And that'll cover 10,000 students?
Yes. When I submitted it, it was nearly 10,000, 9,940 or something. So it's very close to $10,000.
So
10,000 students, I'm sorry.
Okay. So, Mr. Arena, where's the data gonna go? Does it go into their storage server? Are we just using a software like you use a Microsoft to use a software, but we store it in our facility? What happens to this data?
The data is going to be in the service center at Region 1 in Edinburgh. The software that they develop, its program automatically stores it there.
So we do have an agreement, obviously they don't want our data, but we have an agreement to get our data back?
That's what Mr.
At the time we terminate?
That if something goes wrong, if we decide to get out of the deal, that we put in the agreement that they provide the data back to us. It is an educational facility. I don't see why they wouldn't agree to that agreement.
Okay. I'm fairly in agreement with this, but I still think we ought to consider this a temporary fix, because at the end of the day, I have a lot of respect for Mr. Nájera, and they do this type of software all the time, but at the end of the day, it's a tracking data. And at the place I work, we have several tracking datas that are modifiable, that can be adjusted for specific needs. It's a tracking data, and as robust of a IT program we have here at Socorro ISD, I'm not real sure why something like this we would want to purchase. I realize 15,000 is not a whole lot. I'm wondering the additional travel cost, is it for us to go get training or for them to come here and train us? How does that work?
It'll probably be a webinar service, not something that it's going to require for us to go there. And I
Okay.
agree that it's a tracking data, but it's also a database, it's also a program that was developed to track the students. But the cost is, and the time that it requires to develop it, if we were to do it, we probably have to assign 2 programmers to the project. The cost of 2 years, if you use their salary of $55,000, in a year it's $110,000 for 2 years, it's $200,000. And I know, can our staff do it? Absolutely they can.
Okay.
President
Ms.
Nahara, I've
Rodriguez.
got a question. And I apologize, I just got here, and I know we've been looking at this information, but please remind me again, what exactly is this for? What does this do?
You know, right now, when a child is labeled bilingual, they have to go to the school and do a home survey. That process is automated. No longer do they have to do it on paper. If the child takes a test, that's now an automated system. If the teacher or the vice principal gets to meet with a parent, they would get an email. It's an automated system. When we did the audit, I don't know, a year ago or 2 years ago, some of those things are sometimes lost. Papers are lost. This process makes it automated, so the data is always there, along with the forms included in the system. It's an automated process to do the entire LPAC process.
Ms. Rodriguez, it's very similar to eSped. It's gonna allow us to keep everything in one database. The way it was explained to me, I've not seen this, but the way it was explained to me by Ms. Schulte and the team and Mr. Ortega, it's very similar to eSped. And you know, eSped really helps with accountability. And, excuse me, so to kind of give you an analogy of sort of what it looks like, it's very similar to that, where everything is kept in one place. It helps with the accountability piece. It also helps with making sure that notifications are sent out if the child is in the wrong placement, so on and so forth. So it's really going to be an asset.
Okay, so I have a question. I know the district is using eSped for the special education software program. So did we look into using eSped for this component of it?
No, because you would do, it's 2 different things. We wouldn't look at that. There is industry out there.
She's saying yes, Mr. Reyna. She's saying yes.
Well, we didn't look at it.
Well, we did, I just for not, we did as a department, and we have the bilingual task force, and we looked at eSped, we looked at Elevation, we looked at the competition, and we all decided that this one was the one that really aligned with, it was vetted through TEA because it's through one of the regions, it's through Region 1. And so it has to be aligned, like I said. When I asked about eSped and the bilingual piece of it, they do have it. We would have to purchase it as well because we only use it for the special ed. But it is not as user-friendly, it's more difficult. And talking to Mr. Ortega, the same thing. He said it took us a while to get used to it because it's so complex. So that was his recommendation.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say it, in my district I use eSped, people learn it. You know, if that's the tracking, if that's the program that we're using, and not that I'm a proponent, I mean, I'm just looking at why something different if we're already using something that, I mean, was the cost looked at, was, you know, is it comparable, was, you know, again,
maybe not.
just
Just
looking at the,
You know, at the end of the day.
why this program.
Because, again, they took the time to customize it just for them. That's why they did it.
Okay, and again, I've lived through a customization of forms that were in a previous life that I had, and it kind of didn't work out very well, and we were used as a pilot, and it was just, you know, and I guess that's why I'm very cautious about it, because if it's something that districts have been using and it works and, fine, but again, when the information was provided to me in another district, that, oh yes, these are the districts that are using it, and it turned out to be not quite what it was cracked up to be, for lack of a better term. So, if we go into this agreement, and I apologize again, coming in a little bit late, but we can pull out at any time
90 days.
90 days.
with a 90 days notice?
And during the pilot program, we'll see if there's the issues are there's concerns there. It's a chance for us to pull out if we agree.
But again, it's kind of one of those things, if we're going to put all the data in and we're going to get everything into the system, that's going to be a lot of man hours also. So just, being cautious and, again, especially with student records and all that kind of stuff. Again, we're going to put that information in, how if we get out of that, is that data going to be retrievable? If we're not going to have, for example, we're going to do the home language surveys through the online system. If we get out of that program, do we own those home language surveys?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
And we're not going to have to continue to pay them to get access to that.
It will be like any other educational facility. I don't foresee a problem where we tell them, we need to return the data. We do this with companies already.
Again, just experiences that I've had.
Good points.
I mean, we're in a situation, in a current position that I hold, where we used somebody to do the online, scanning in documents, but then it's almost like, no, well, we have the records. We no longer have paper trail, so we have to continue, using, that vendor, for lack of a better term again, to store those records until we no longer need those records, or we can destroy those records. And it just kind of, just a little bit nervous about stuff like this. And again, just wondering if we're already using something. Administrators are used to eSped, or, the online program that we're using. Administrators are used to it. They're already utilizing it for something. So again, just, wanting to know why this particular online system.
Well, again, the answer I would say is because they took the time to work with bilingual department in their district to make sure that everything they needed, instead of going through the other software, that it met their needs. That's why they did it. It's our recommendation that they think it would work for us. Again, we don't agree with it, that it doesn't meet our needs. There is a thing that we can get out, and that's why we think it's a good idea to move forward in this recommendation.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Ayub and a second by Mr. Nahida. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Item D, consider approval of Amendment 1 to the Communities and Schools of El Paso Choices Program.
Put the brakes on.
Ms. Borrego?
Hi, hi again.
I was headed to the executive.
The purpose of this amendment is to add program coordinators at Escontrias Elementary, Lujan Chavez Elementary, Sanchez Middle School, and Paso del Norte School to continue providing supportive guidance, educational enhancement, health and human services, parental involvement employment, pre-employment enrichment for the students at Socorro ISD for the 2018-2019 school year. We had already brought the first contract and had been approved. These schools, because of either retirements or promotions or leaving the district, or some of them are going to have both. They would like to add CIS, and administration recommends approval as presented.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that? I have a motion
The lone guy
to
out
approve I have a motion to approve by Mr. Guerra, a second by Mr. Nahida. Any further discussion?
Ms. Borrego?
Yes, sir.
I'm glad to see the additions. You know, I talked to you a lot about the CIS program, well, to several of you. And I
Yes,
always hear how great the program is, you know, from you all. I've heard it from some of the principals. And so my next natural question is, well, if it's so great, why isn't it at all the schools? You know, interestingly enough, the company I work for is based out of Atlanta, right? And they promote the program a lot out there in Atlanta, too. I didn't realize it was a nationwide program and not just in Texas.
Yes, sir.
So, and they say great things about the program over there as well. So, anyways, I'm glad to see, you know, that it's growing.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your support as well.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries.
Thank you.
Ms. Borrego.
Can I get up now, miss?
No. We're not done.
Executive.
That's where I was headed, but she won't let me go.
Before we go to executive, we would like to wish a very happy birthday to Mr. Ironton, who's just turning 21 today.
21. Happy birthday.
Hey, the last person in has to sing. Ms. Macias?
And Mr. Ironton, Mr. Ayub's taking his daughter to Cattleman's tonight, so I'm sure he wouldn't mind you going with him.
The more the merrier. Hop on.
There you go.
Oh,
All right, item number 4, executive session. This meeting is to be closed to consider administrative recommendation for principal position at Myrtle Cooper Elementary School under Texas Government Code Section 551.074. The time is 5:58. The time is 6:09. New business, A, consider approval of administrative recommendations. Dr. Espinosa, the principal of Myrtle Cooper Elementary School.
Yes, ma'am. President Nájera, members of the board, administration recommends Ms. Alicia Miranda to assume all the roles and the responsibilities as the principal of Myrtle Cooper Elementary.
motion to approve.
Second?
I have a motion by Mr. Ayub and a second by Ms. Rodriguez. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And the motion carries. If there's no further business, we are adjourned. The time is 6:09. Vámonos.
Happy birthday. Thank you. You all have a good
Tell her happy birthday. Y'all be